Hello all, a very good day. So this is the second time we are all meeting once again. This is Darryl Matthew George. I'll be teaching you English, your important exam inputs and instructions for the upcoming preparatory as well as the board exam. Okay, will be given in these videos. Okay, so we're meeting once again. Well, this time to discuss the second PUC English paper pattern. Okay, so a very good day to all of you once again. So moving on. So most of you have already written two exams, the midterm as well as the first preparatory exam, and you guys have a faint idea of how the question paper pattern will be. If not, we will discuss that in detail in this session. Okay, so as you all may know, the question paper is divided into 5 parts. Okay. Okay, coming back, guys. So part A to part E is what we are having in the question paper. The question paper is compartmentalized into 5 parts. So part A, what is the weightage that part A holds? Part A will be coming for 20 marks. Okay, 20 marks is what part A is comprising of, and part A is a mixture of both your literature and your grammar. Okay, in the last class we learned that the PU English syllabus is divided into 2, that is the literature and the grammar part. The literature is compiled in your Springs textbook and the grammar is compiled in your Streams workbook. So part A is a compilation, a mix of both literature and your grammar part. So 20 marks, out of which 10 marks will be from the literature part, that is your Springs textbook. And the other 10 marks will be from the grammar, that is your Streams workbook. Okay, so the 10 mark literature questions will be 10 1-mark MCQs. Okay, 10 1-mark MCQs. In total 10 questions you'll be having. All 10 questions will be literature based questions that will be asking about, the lessons or the chapters that you've learned in the Springs textbook. 10 1-mark MCQs. The second part of the next part of part A is the grammar part. So 10 marks again. So 10 mark worth of grammar questions will be coming in part A as well. Okay, and that will be divided in. So this is how the grammar in part A will be divided. You will get one 3-mark question, one 2-mark question, and one 5-mark question. Okay. So the 3-marker will most usually be the passive voice question, and the 2-mark question will be the idiomatic expression question, and the 5-marker would be matching the pronoun with the noun or the noun phrase. We will discuss all this in detail in the coming videos. So this is part A, and part A will carry 20 marks. Okay, moving on, part B. Part B. The whole of part B is dedicated to solely literature, that is your Springs textbook. Okay, so part B carries the most weightage among all the 5 parts. Okay, 30 marks. So a lot of stakes run high when you're writing the part B. Okay, so do not waste much time on the other parts. Okay, part B carries the most marks, the most weightage. Okay, the literature part. So how is the 30 marks in part B divided? We will discuss. Okay, so part B, first and foremost, you will be getting 3 2-mark questions. Okay, 3 2-mark questions. So these 2-mark questions have to be answered in a sentence or 2. Okay, the 2-mark questions. 4 questions or 5 questions will be given. You'll have to answer any 3 mandatorily, and these 3 questions, 2 marks each, will carry a total of 6 marks. Okay, so the next would be the 3-marker question. Okay, the 3-marker question. So these 3-mark questions have to be answered in not less than 60 words. Okay, 60 words. So these 60-word answers, that is a 3-mark question, you'll have to answer any 4 questions. Okay, in total you may get 6 questions, and you have to mandatorily answer at least 4 of the 6 questions given to you, the 3 markers, and you have to answer them in not less than 60 words. Okay, moving on, the next is the 4-mark question. Okay, the 4-mark question should be answered in not less than 100 words. Okay, I repeat, the 4 markers should not be should be answered in no less than 100 words. You have to answer at least any 3 of the 4-mark questions given to you. In total, you may get 4, max 5 questions. You have to mandatorily answer at least 3 of the 3 of the questions given to you, the 4-mark questions. Moving on, the next is part C. Part C is the reading part. Okay, the reading part, as in both your reading comprehension, your unseen passage, as well as the unseen poem, okay, will be coming in part C. Part C carries a total weightage of 9 marks. Part C carries a total weightage of 9 marks. Okay, and part C is going to be an or question, meaning you will be getting an unseen passage or unseen poem. Okay, unseen passage will usually have 9 questions of 1 mark each, or 8 questions where 7 of the 8 questions will be for 1 mark and the 1 question will be for 2 marks. So either ways, both the unseen passage and the unseen poetry will be for 9 marks each, which is an or question. You can attempt one of the 2. That being said, do not waste much time on part C, because it, as I am saying again, it carries only 9 marks, and most of you tend to waste a lot of time in part C. Okay, so if possible, keep part C to the last. Okay, because it carries the lesser weightage compared to all the other parts. Okay, moving on, part D. Part D is the purely grammar part. Okay, purely grammar, part D. Okay, only grammar in part D. So you will be having reported speech, you'll be having question tags, question forms, dialogue writing, complete the conversation, and all these grammar questions that you have learnt will be exclusively asked in part D. Okay, that being said, the grammar questions that were asked in part A, which we discussed earlier, will not be asked in part D, meaning passive forms of the verb and idiomatic expressions and matching noun to the matching the pronoun to the noun phrases and the nouns are not the questions that will be repeated again in part D. So whatever grammar questions you got in part A will not come in part D. Okay, will only be asked once. Moving on, the last part is the letter writing part. So letter writing is something you guys have been learning since the school level. So the formal and the informal letter. But coming to PU, we have only the formal letter, and the PU board very specifically asks for a very stringent format that should be followed. The format is given in the PU2 as well as the PU1 grammar workbooks. So this time in PU1, most of you did study the formal letter. Okay, but coming to PU2, there is a small alteration to the formal letter that you're learning. That is the letter of application, letter of job application. So what makes the letter of job application different from the formal letter? So you don't just write the formal letter, you also add the resume to the formal letter. So this is the letter of application. So you will either get the letter of application for 5 marks, or you may get the speech writing. So part E sometimes can be an or question. Okay, it's not a guarantee. Sometimes part E you may get an or question, but one thing is for certain, the letter of application is a sure shot mandatory question, both for the preparatory as well as for the final exam. So do not go to the exam preparing only for the speech writing. Be well aware, well versed with the formal letter and the resume. Okay, resume as specified by the PU board, which is printed in your streams workbook. So that is how the paper will be divided. So now we will analyze the paper pattern, and I will now project or stream to you the previous preparatory exam, the preparatory exam that just finished, the question paper of the previous preparatory exam. Okay, so let's go. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So guys, the instructions are as follows, and most of you have the habit of skipping the instructions, which I will strictly advise you to not do. Okay, you are given a reading time, which is at least a 10 minutes reading time. Especially in the board exam, you'll be given a reading time. So during the reading time, please start with the instructions as well. Some of you make very careless and simple mistakes despite clear-cut instructions being given in the question paper. So start with the instructions, okay? So these are the instructions that you need to be following. Okay, moving on. So the first part, that is part A. As I said earlier, part A is 20 marks in total, and the first 10 questions are going to be MCQs solely from the literature part. That is your Spring's textbook. Okay, so these are the 10 questions that were asked from the previous preparatory exam. Okay, the recently finished first preparatory exam. So the first 10 questions are as follows. So the first 10 questions, okay, each of these 10 questions carry 1 mark. So 10 1-mark MCQs from the literature part. Moving on, next is the grammar part of part A. So this is the grammar part that I told to you earlier. So 1 3-mark question would be about passive forms. Again, it's a mandatory question. This will sure shot be coming in the next preparatory exam as well. So the passive forms is a 3-mark question. Okay, passive voice. Yeah, so coming back. So this 3-mark question is from passive form, and it's a mandatory question which will be coming for your preparatory exam as well. The next question is idiomatic expressions, idioms that you've learned, okay? So whatever idioms we've learned in the streams book, okay, questions will be asked only from those, okay? Idioms. You know, there are so many idioms that you cannot complete in a day's time. You don't have to learn all of those. Only the idioms that are stated in the streams workbook would do, okay? And this idiomatic expressions question will be coming for 2 marks. Moving on, lastly, you will have 1 5-mark question, again from the grammar part. You have to match the following. It's a match the following question. So you have to replace, or you have to match the pronoun to the respective noun or noun phrases. A small excerpt will be given to you, okay? You have to read it, and wherever the pronoun is given, okay, you have to see column B, and you have to substitute the respective noun or noun phrase with the pronoun given in the excerpt, okay? So that is the 5-mark question. It carries 5 marks, and it's a very easy question, so please do not skip it. Moving on to part B. Part B, as I said earlier, part B is among the 5 parts, the part that carries the maximum weightage. Part B is for 30 marks, by the way. Part B is for 30 marks. So the first set of 4 questions that I've told you, these are the 3-mark questions, the 3 markers, okay? So these 3 markers have to be answered in a sentence or 2. Again, most of you have the habit of answering in a word, sometimes a word or 2 words, okay? I strictly advise you to answer in at least a sentence, okay? Even if it is a 1-word answer, please write the answer in a sentence at least, because that is exactly what they're specifying here. Answer any 3 of the following in 1 or 2 sentences each, okay? So among the 4 questions given to you, you have to answer any 3, okay, at least. Moving on to the next is the 3-mark question. The 3-mark questions have to be answered in about 60 words, okay? So 60-word answer. You have to mandatorily attempt at least 4 questions given to you. Here you are given 6 questions. So out of the 6, you have to answer at least 4, okay? In at least 60 words, okay? Moving on, the third part of the third section of part B is the 4-mark question, okay? The 4-mark question have to be attempted in no less than 100 words, okay? No less than 100 words, meaning you will be given 6 questions again, and you have to mandatorily answer 3 questions at least, okay? So in total, part B will carry 30 marks. The maximum weightage among the 5 parts, as I said earlier, is part B. Okay. So you have to be very thorough with your Spring's textbook lessons, especially when you are answering these. Most importantly, as I said in the last class, you should be well versed with the play, A Sunny Morning. Okay. Sunny Morning carries the most weightage among the chapters. So be well versed with that. Moving on. So the next is part C. Part C is your reading section. So here is given an unseen passage. Okay, you have an unseen passage here. So this time you are given 8 questions here. Okay, 8 questions are given for 9 marks, meaning one of the 8 questions will be for 2 marks. So here, as you can see, the last but one question is for 2 marks. Okay. They did not specify that in the previous preparatory exam. There will be minor errors or mistakes here and there. Okay, so it's up to you to ask and clarify with your invigilator or the exam coordinator. Okay, because there have always been mistakes in the midterm, also in the preparatory exam, also with respect to the question paper. Okay, so read the question paper in detail before attempting the exam. Here, part C, the unseen passage, you are given 8 questions. Which in total carry 9 marks. So the last but one question is for 2 marks. Okay, the rest all are 1 mark questions. So in total 9 marks. This is the unseen passage. And what did I tell you earlier? You have an or question too. It's an unseen passage or the poem. Okay. So here is your unseen poem. Okay. So this time you have 9 1 mark questions. Okay. Yeah, 9 1 mark questions. So you have to read the poem and answer the questions accordingly. So it's an or question, part C. Again, do not waste so much time on part C. A lot of students tend to waste a lot of time on part C. So do not do that. Keep, if possible, part C to the end. Okay. Moving on to the next part, that is your grammar part. Yeah. So grammar part D. So part D, as I told you guys earlier, has a total weightage of 16 marks. Okay, this is purely grammar, part D. So as you can see, you are given or you are given or options. Okay, start right from the beginning. So the 31st question carries 4 marks. It is an or question. Okay, you can either answer the articles, the prepositions, the subject verb agreement questions. Okay, or the appropriate verb form. So these are things that you have already learnt in PU1 as well. Or you can answer the linkers. Okay, so the linker question. So it's an or question. The 32nd question, again, this time this 32nd question is for 2 marks. Okay, question tag or question form, which will also be a very mandatory question in the exam. Moving on. So this is the or question for the 32nd question. So which is the 32nd A was question tag or question forms. The or question is error correction. Again, both of these you have learnt in PU1. So you should be absolutely thorough with these. Okay. The next, that is 33rd question is something that you learned in PU2. You did not have it in PU1. So 33rd question is note making. So again, very easy. So an excerpt or a small passage will be given to you, and below will be given a chart, a web. Okay, you have to read the excerpt and then you have to fill in the vacant boxes accordingly. Okay, so half the work is done to you because the chart or the web is already given. You have to just fill in the appropriate webs. You can either draw the web as it is, it's up to you, or you are given numbers here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So you can just write the numbers and the answers next to that. Okay, if time does not permit, you just need to write the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4 and write the answers, the respective answers. But if time permits, I would advise you to draw the chart altogether, which would make it easier for the evaluator to correct the paper. Okay, moving on. So reported speech. a mandatory sure short question which I told you will be coming for the next preparatory as well as the final exam. Be very thorough with reported speech, because most of you tend to lose marks in the reported speech. Okay, so 4 or 5 lines. Okay, it's usually a conversation between two people. So 4 to 5 lines of conversation, that is direct speech, will be given to you. Okay, and you have to write it in the reported speech. Okay, be very thorough because it's a 5-mark question. Moving on, 35th question is for 3 marks. It is dialogue writing. Okay, again, just like reported speech, the reported speech question, it will be a conversation between 2 or more people. You have to fill in the blanks, okay, with the appropriate dialogues. Again, do not simply write any dialogue. See the context of the conversation and write the dialogues accordingly. The hints are given to you in the brackets. Okay, moving on. Finally, part E. Okay, part E again is the mandatory, the sure short question that you all will have to study for is the letter of application. Okay, so this time in part E you are given an OR question. Okay, that is not the case, however, in all the exams. Sometimes in part E you may not get an OR question. Okay, this time it was given. Next time, let's hope we get an OR question. But one thing is for certain, letter of application is a sure short question. So be very thorough with the letter of application. So you'll be given a newspaper advertisement, an advert. Okay, so from this you can fill in details, mainly from the to address. Okay, and in some of these questions, the from address and the name will be given to you. So you can fill in the from address and the name based on the details given in the question. This question, that is your letter of application, your formal letter with the resume, carries 5 marks. It is a mandatory sure short question. Please be well versed with it. This time, for the recently concluded preparatory exam, an OR question was given. That is speech writing. Okay, speech writing is again very easy. Okay, just compartmentalize the speech. You need to have a formal, a welcoming in the first paragraph, and in the next para you get to the actual speech or the keynote address. Then you conclude the speech. So, and you are given sub points. So these are things you should be covering in your speech. Okay, speech is not a sure question, but letter of application is. So be very thorough with letter of application. Okay, so that is it with respect to the question paper discussion. So this is going to be the mark distribution in your preparatory exam, in the incoming preparatory exam as well as the final board exam. This is going to be the question paper pattern. So you will have a clear-cut idea on which part to prioritize more. Okay, please do not waste time on parts that carry lesser marks, as in part C. Okay, part B carries 30 marks, as I said earlier. So focus more on part B. Okay, and read the question paper thoroughly, because there will be mistakes in the question paper also. So that is it for today. So we will meet again hopefully for another fruitful discussion related to your English board preparations. So all the best. This is Darryl Matthews, you're signing off. Prepare well for your second preparatory as well as your board exam. May you score well. Goodbye.